Spectrum of Us podcast.
Chaos and comedy, where we explore life on the spectrum.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Jennifer.
In each episode, we dive deep into life surrounding neurodivergence, exploring the complex and often comical dynamics between society, family, education, and more.
Through building understanding, we hope to build a community. So like and subscribe for more chaos and comedy as we explore life behind the scenes of neurodiversity.
Today, we are going to have the pleasure, for some people pleasure, for some people's bane, in chaos, something that we discovered with our own neurodivergent child that has really transformed him, keeps him focused. I watched him be super creative. I watched him like sit down and view something to learn it, which, you know, I had seen him struggle through that before and need help, but I've watched him by himself watch a YouTube video on how to do something and then actually replicate it. And watching him use his motor skills in connection with that is truly an amazing thing. It's been amazing for us, but I do have to recognize it's been the bane of existence for others, and that is e-bikes. E-bikes.
Yeah, I didn't get it at first. I was like, whatever. It's a bicycle. It goes faster. You don't have to pedal it. So I was like, okay. But I get it now.
Yeah, they're taking. It's not just where we're at. It's pretty much everywhere I've been. They're taking over. Mm-hmm. Cities are actually. It started with the little scooters.
Yeah,
people could rent those and zip around, and that is turned into the.
That's
the
true.
e-bikes.
Like if we go back, let's remember how this came about. Right, we had electric scooters coming into the metro areas.
Yep.
For rentals to get around. Then we had the e-bikes start coming out in the metro areas to rent to get around. Mm-hmm. And so they were great tools for people to explore without having to be good at a bike or physically fit necessarily. You could go around. Or even just a mode of transportation, that wasn't gas powered. It wasn't physically powered, and it was quiet. Yeah. And
didn't leave too much of a footprint. So
yeah, except we could talk for days about electricity consumption and battery dumping, but we're not going to talk about that today.
But just
all the things that people complain about motorized, things or push pedal things, or like a push scooter or whatever, right? Like a lot of people who might not necessarily do a push scooter, or like you're going up hills if you're in a hilly area.
Yeah,
that's not practical. But if you have an E situation, it's practical. And fast forward to probably the last couple years, where it has moved from e-bikes to now the big controversy, right? What are they? Are they e-bikes? Are they e-motorcycles? Are they pocket bikes? Are they e-motos? Are they whatever? They're classifying them into different classes, but different communities are defining them differently.
Yes.
Recently I just started getting irritated because I'm on the spectrum. I hate inconsistency. I hate it. Like, you're gonna call something, then call it that, but don't start redefining it because what you called it before isn't fitting your narrative now. So now you're like, oh, no, I mean, correct that. Actually. So they were calling them e-bikes, and different classes. Mm-hmm. And now, there's a move to clarify. Oh, well, if the pedals don't move, if it goes above this speed limit, if it does these things, it's actually an e-motorcycle, which is actually technically incorrect. And so then that irritates me too, because, you know, when it comes to like being a literal human myself, you know, I'll get caught up on that's actually not correct, you know, because an e-motorcycle is a very different animal and has different components on it. If they called it an e-motocross bike, I might ride with that, because that's what they're really talking about. What the ones that they're talking about are the ones that are most similar to motocross bikes.
Yes.
And they're just electric.
Well, I think that, and this may be a long conversation.
Yeah, this may be 2 parts.
Yeah, because I think that there's 2 really important conversations. The conversation is
in your face.
No, I'm fine.
I'm not.
Well, the camera's right there.
I know, but
that doesn't matter.
It's bothering me.
No, then don't look.
This is where the ADHD is a problem.
I know.
Okay,
I need you to just focus on what we're talking about, because you're gonna make me lose my point.
Okay, go.
The important conversation is, and super important, is watching my young son work through problems and do problem solving that I didn't think he was capable of. But the introduction of his e-bike is actually making him use parts of his brain that hasn't been used before. I'm watching him use critical thinking to
piece
get
of his
through
brain
to a
that
problem.
you can't get him to use in
any other way.
No.
Any other way, we haven't been able to do it. I'm watching him go through this.
Yeah.
So that's a great conversation. The other conversation, and it's just as important, is one you were talking about.
Yeah.
Because I could really get into how on the West Coast.
Well, let's talk about let's decide then. I think this episode you're gonna get the plant out of your face, and
the plant's not in my face.
And I think this episode we talk about you know, what is it that attracts this community to this activity, and who's in this activity, who is primarily participating in this community, because I think that's something we got to talk about. And then we can do a part 2 where we talk about the differences of the bikes and the dangers and the different things and the different situations that we have going on. So let's end this episode. Let's talk about who's in this community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because what I see when I didn't know, you know, this is obviously I'm part of this community. I work with this community. I've made, you know, a life learning everything I can about not just the parts of the community that are similar to me, but and my kids, but, you know, other pieces of behavior and mental illness disorders that affect people, right? And I didn't realize that like 80%, if I just had to like guess a number, like 80% of the people in this community for e-bikes, in the e-bike community, are also my people.
Well,
who are like the ADHD kids, the ADHD kids, the autism kids who are, you know, having some struggles with some low-key mental health issues. I hear this all the time. My brain finally quiets when I'm on the bike. It's the only place I feel normal. It's the only place that I feel really successful. I feel good on the bike. It's the only time I get on that bike and everything that I struggle with disappears.
And I think that it's important, and for anyone out there listening, understand that the community part of what she just said is super important, because it's not going away.
No, this is not going away.
This is a group that's here.
Yeah, they're here, and so the unique part of this, I think, is this is a community and people are dealing with it like it's just another nuisance, right? And communities are irritated for various reasons. And what they're missing is going to be the make or break of how successful they are at working with this problem as far as they're concerned, right? And the reason is because they're dealing with it like they're dealing with typically functioning people. You're not. This is a community that I would say 80% or more of neurodivergent people who have all come together, okay? We have only seen limited situations where neurodiverse people actually come together. Because let's just remember, a lot of neurodivergent people struggle with social, okay? So they live lives where they struggle socially, they don't have a lot of community. Community that they found has been online, and they have been, and their parents have been, and their families have been deeply criticized for years now about their online consumption, their gaming, their, the memes about, the kid in the basement until he's 45, eating Cheetos and playing games and never, gets out there. He's probably on the spectrum, or, multitude of situations. And the only place he finds community is on this online or in this online world, right? So it's very rare that we see this. The last time I saw people out in public forming a community of neurodivergent people was Microsoft. And I remember watching it. I lived in that community when Microsoft popped up. So I drove the streets going to high school, and I remember seeing the people move into the community who were working at Microsoft. And I remember thinking, because back then, even though I was in the community, I didn't realize in the community. I just didn't understand why nobody wanted to be my friend. But I remember, because what we would call those kids, they were the weirdos, they were the nerds, they were odd, they were different, right? They had a look to them, kind of to us, that was like, and now I laugh at myself for saying these things back then, because I'm like, I was one of them that they also looked at, and I just didn't realize. But I remember driving through, and it was almost like I could be like, oh, Microsoft, oh, Microsoft, oh, Microsoft. Oh my God, it's like a whole company full of people who are all the nerds, who are all the weirdos. Joke's on us. Yeah, it is a whole community of that. And they finally found a way where they fit, where they felt normal, where they felt like they weren't different, because they were all different, but they all had this thing in common that nobody else really understood, which is what created every electronic situation that we all rely on and deal with today, right? Like Apple, Microsoft, all those things came from the neurodivergent community. And I'll die on that hill, because we would not have had all of this technology without the neurodivergent community figuring out how to channel what is called a disability into literally a superpower. So when I say to people, no, this is legit a superpower, I'm not just saying that to make you feel good about your disability, right? I'm saying no, for real, if you learn how to take this and channel it, you could be Bill Gates. You could be there's some real possibility
that you could probably, when people, because you get the ability to focus.
The
hyper focus.
The hyper focus ability is what creates inventions. It's what fuels innovation. you can't have a typical amount of interest and have a breakthrough. Those two things can't coexist.
No.
You have to be borderline crazy obsessed, where you won't get off this thing because you can see something and you're just trying to work your way to it.
Yes.
In a way that only our brains
Yeah.
do.
No, you have to be able to fully immerse yourself and not be distracted by anything else.
Right.
And typically those neurodivergent kids and adults can do that. The kid in the basement who you said, no, he free for hours, would be for hours.
Mastering
the game.
Yeah. And now we have an esports industry, right? And now, just now, they're starting to say, so turns out, for typically functioning people, consumption of electronics is rotting their brain, right? But for neurodivergent, we're not quite sure how it's actually interacting with their brain. And we're actually, we don't want to admit it, but actually we're seeing that it's like a regulation tool. Like for some of them, it's helping them regulate, right? It's helping them deal with more stress, more whatever. Like I was explaining to my assistant yesterday, I was like, our son, your son, he would be perfectly happy if we never made him leave the house. Like he's like, why do I need to go outside? Why do I need to go places except the comic book store? I maybe want to go to the corner store and grab a snack, but like, I like my little bubble and I like it real small. Right. And I said, but of course we take him out, we force him out, we, take him and go see things. I said, but that entire experience for him every time is incredibly stressful and taxing. It's exhausting. I said, so you'll see if we travel somewhere, he'll be back at the room within a couple of hours, exhausted.
Yeah.
And we really, to the rest of us, like, especially the ADHD ones of us, because, the rest of us are like, kind of got that thing going on. So there's no end to our, excitement and energy when we're out seeing new things.
Waiting for the next thing to happen.
Right. But he is drained like that. And we're like, we barely did anything, dude. What? You're tired? But he's just trying to explain it as best he can. What it is it took him so much to regulate out in the world and in these social situations and not do all the stimming and different things that he's aware somewhat are not socially acceptable, but keeping himself under control. Like he's sitting in the car, he's in a seatbelt, he can't pace. Yeah. But when he's home, he's pacing constantly. He'll sit down every once in a while and then he's back up pacing, and he's regulating. Yeah. He's regulating by being on his thing, and he's watching his same shows, or he's watching a new show, or he's hyper focused on, learning how to draw this thing or whatever. And he's using the electronics as a regulator when he's out in the world, right? So we were shaming people for letting their kids be on electronics in the world, not thinking about how maybe that's not a typically functioning kid, and maybe he's using it, maybe she's using it, maybe they're helping him, maybe it's a regulator. And I don't even think the parents who were letting him do it, the parents were feeling guilty,
Absolutely. I was one of those
so
parents where like it's too much.
Yeah, put your phone down. Yeah. We don't even realize what we're requiring of them in a restaurant that's loud and noisy. Yeah. And their sensory overload is off the charts, and then we go, put your phone down, and then they're like, it is okay.
And you have to understand that what that does for them is it gives them structure so they can regulate.
Well,
because there's rules to each one of those things. Blocks everything out.
Blocks everything because I'm hyper focused on this thing. Okay, great. Now I can block out the world. Yeah. And now my senses are coming back under control. And so this is what we're dealing with the e-bikes, because here's the thing. The reason that it's so attractive some of the reasons that it's so attractive to the neurodivergent community. It's not loud, doesn't vibrate.
Yep.
Sensory issues. Okay, I'm telling you right now, when I hear a loud motorcycle, a loud dirt bike, it's like, right? My senses are overloaded. So that's why we won't find a lot of these kids like that. That's one of the reasons this is attractive to them.
Yeah.
Because it's quiet. It's got a steady hum. There's probably something about it that's like resonating through their body that feels calming without them knowing, because it's a steady. They feel in control, so they can decide how much input they want, right? Do you want to go fast or do you not want to go fast? Because if I want to just go slow, I can go slow. I can get a pedal electric, and then I can feel really in control of everything. You know, like, oh, I want to go a little bit faster, but I don't want to go that fast.
Yeah.
I can get a fast one because maybe I have some of that ADHD and I've got that risk taking stuff going on, right? So like I can say between my kids, Savvy, who's just on the spectrum, she's like, I would like a slow bike that has a lot of control, thank you, but I also don't want to do a pedal bike because that's a lot of work, right, and that makes me sweat and that makes me uncomfortable, and I don't like exercise like that making me uncomfortable. You know, I want to get from point A to point B, but I don't want to have to go too fast because that's scary, because then my senses get overstimulated, right? So she wants all the control. But then I've got Jack, who's like, you know, the ADHD is on high and he likes the thrill and he likes the risk taking. So he's like, screw the pedals, man. I want all the power. I want all the risk.
Yeah.
I want to be able to, you know, I want a sturdy, steady, like faster the better, more robust the better, you know, like just all that. But the key is that they're all finding regulation. And here's the really cool thing. They're finding regulation in a way that's not rotting their brain.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know if the electronics are rotting their brain or not, but we do know that it is consumed differently by them than it is neurotypical. I personally am going to say, I'd rather see my child outside in fresh air and having opportunities to interact with people, even if they're negative, than isolated inside in a dark room, hyper-focused for hours on video games.
Especially now because
of all the crazy, scary...
The system and the way it is with technology is now we have the ability to interact with other people outside of your home. And you have a community outside where you can watch your kid. Or you have this vast space.
Right, unknown. I mean, you're talking other countries. Yeah. You're talking adults that can pretend that they're children. You know, we've got massive, scary trafficking rings going on, utilizing those. So I won't even talk about what the effect may be on your body or your social or your development. Let's just talk about basic safety, right? So we're sitting here in communities so focused on, well, they scared us and they're going to hurt themselves and they're going to die. I saw, you know, this accident. I've seen this thing happen. I've seen this thing happen. And I'm thinking, I got to look up the statistics on child trafficking, sexual abuse, how many kids have been, or young people, especially teenagers, runaways that are being classified as runaways. But the last thing that happened was they were spending a lot of online interaction and they were gamers before. Like, what are we doing, people? We're not worried about that. I don't see you putting any, you know, community guidelines. You're not running down to city council to pass an ordinance about, you know, how much time we let our kids, you know, interact. We're not trying to regulate any of that. We're putting electronics in the schools and we're saying, hey, it's you guys should use more of this.
What it looks like, and I'm not going to label anybody, But what it looks like to me is that it's a concern if I can see it.
Yeah.
If I can't see it, I don't care.
I don't care because not my problem. But you're in my community and you're in my comfort zone. And you know what? I've gotten really comfortable not having to see or hear kids.
Yeah.
Period. And so I just make it go away. Just stop. Right? I don't want to see a kid do something dangerous. I want to put them in bubble wrap. I want to, and here's what I'm so sick of seeing. Do better, parents. How about this? Do better, communities. Okay? Do better. I'm not going to tell you that, you should make your child come outside without 2 adult chaperones and without their bubble wrap. Okay? I'm not going to tell you that's what you should do. Right? If you want your child to stay inside on electronics, never doing anything without 2 adult chaperones and the appropriate bubble wrap, go for it. I don't care. That's totally your deal, But don't tell me that I need to do better. According to whose standards? Because according to my standards, my neurodivergent kid is having real opportunities. It's okay with me if you yell at them. It's okay with me if you don't like what you see them doing. I promise you, when they come home and they're like, yeah, this lady, she yelled at us, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, what'd you do? It's an opportunity for me to have an interaction with my child and say, yeah, because not everybody likes it when you do that. And it's not just me saying that anymore. Yeah. It's not just me saying that. They just had it happen to them, right? They just had people yell at them. And what happens is, that happens a couple times, and then they start going, yeah, we don't want to go down that street, man, because that lady yells at us, and, that's a pain. Hey, that's how we learn how to get along in society. Your laws are not going to teach these kids how to get along in society, because these kids have a overactive, very strong sense of justice. And if they feel like you're inconsistent, your rules are not fair, and they don't make sense. And when I say fair, I don't mean like that's not fair, like I'm throwing a tantrum like a kid. I'm saying like for real fair, like when we think about what's fair and just, that's where they come from on this. They don't come from it from like a spoiled brat standpoint. They come from it from a logical standpoint. That's not fair because you let this happen, but you don't let this happen, and they're the same. So why? If they can't make sense of it, they cannot sit with it. They're gonna fight that. So just as much as so you say to them like, well, you can have bicycles, and you can ride a bicycle. Now you can have a whole gaggle. You can have 10, 15 bicyclists ride down the street at 40 miles an hour, which professional bicyclists, they can do that easy, right? They can go 40 miles an hour in a pack down the road and decide to be in the bike lane right now, decide to be in the traffic lane at the light. Oh, now the crosswalk's going, so now I'm going to go through the crosswalk as a pedestrian. Oh, but now the light's green, so now I'm going to cut in front of these cars, and now we're going to all of a sudden be on the street. Oh, now we're going to get on the sidewalk. We can do all of that on a bicycle with a bicycle helmet, which, newsflash, is not going to help you at 40 miles an hour when you crash that bike. But if you're riding an e-bike at 40 miles an hour with 4 of your friends, now it's a problem.
Well, yeah.
And so the kids, they're not dumb. That's the problem, is that these kids are actually, most of them, highly intelligent. So they're making those connections, and they're like, I don't understand. Why can bicyclists who are riding 40 miles an hour, darting in and out of traffic in a pack, do these things, but just because ours is powered versus I just have the manual power to go that fast, and I'm wearing better safety equipment, and I'm just trying to stay on the road. I'm not trying to go, this or that, or tell me a rule and I'll follow it, right? I can't use the bike lane. I can't use the sidewalk. I can't use the street. Where can I go? And the community goes, nowhere.
Yeah, no.
What? I can't go on the trails. I can't go on the streets. I can't go. Then it gets even more complex in their logical trying to make justice of this situation. Then they're like, okay, so wait a minute. Motocross bikes, you don't like them because they're loud. Yeah. So we made these ones so they're quiet. But now you're saying, well, it's not just a noise thing. Okay, but motocross bikes they can modify their bike to become street legal. They have a path to being street legal and getting a license and being able to ride it on the street. Bicycles have free reign. Apparently you can, ride 60 miles an hour. I've literally ridden 60 miles an hour on a bike.
Well,
a bicycle.
And if we want to get technical, if you look at statistics, just say the last 3 years in the United States, you got about bicycle accidents, whether it's e-bike or regular just pedal bikes, and the majority of the accidents take place with pedal bikes.
Right.
That's just what happens.
Right. But because they're not as severe, right? Or because they're
we just don't make the news. Some of them
right. It just doesn't make the news. That's what it is. Yeah, it's just not making the news because it's an accepted piece of society, right? And so we take it to another level though for these kids because there's that whole situation, and then there's other things have paths to be able to ride them. Yeah. You're not giving us any path. You're just saying can't ride it. Yeah. What? Like this is a community who is not going to understand that. So what's going to happen is they're going to be defiant. They're going to go, fuck you. You know what? If I can't do it, I may as well not do it in a big way. Now I'm going to cause chaos. And so what we're seeing is the chaos period right now. We're seeing the chaos phase. We're seeing the uprising. You can't tell us we can't do this and give us no path. We're just going to have an uprising. Right. And that's what's getting really dangerous.
And I think I want to just play on it just a little bit, is that a real issue is that you are treating the people that you think are the issues, not realizing, or maybe you do realize and you just don't care, that these are kids with invisible disabilities. They don't process information the same as a neurotypical kid. So they, of course, you think that, we're going to do this, if they're going to hear it and feel it the same way a neurotypical kid would. And that's not the
they're
case.
Not going to respond the way that you expect a typical functioning human to respond, right? So typically functioning kids, you say don't do that, and if they're a little bit squirrely, then they try it, they have a consequence, and they go, ooh, didn't like that, and then they don't do it again. This isn't them. No. This is a community of kids who, and humans. Mm-hmm. They don't grow out of this. You know? This is their brain. This is a community of humans who you say, don't do that. And they go, why? And if you can't give them a reason that makes sense, if you can't give them, some good, solid information about why that they can ride with, they're going to say, yeah, cool, I'm going to do this anyway. Yeah. And then when you give them an external consequence, now internal consequences, they understand. So when they crash or when they have a natural consequence that happens from the thing, they'll start to respond to that. But when they have an external consequence, a punishment for breaking the rule, that does not get them into compliance. It makes them angrier. Yeah. And they react worse. They just go one step higher. You go this, they go this. Yeah. And it just keeps going to the point where they will sacrifice. They lose all sight of their own personal safety. Mm-hmm. This is just a condition of the disability. It's not something you can train out of them. It is something
No.
that they do get better about when their brain fully fuses, which, by the way, is not until probably their mid-30s.
Yeah.
It's not like the rest of the people where it's in their mid to late 20s. They even have a late where their brain finally comes together. So yeah, in their mid-30s, they're, you know, bringing that down a notch. They're having a little bit more, but they're still not. I mean, I'm still defiant. I'm 55. I'm tired. That's the only thing that holds me down now, right? I just go, oh, I'm just too tired to do that right now. But the problem is still in me, right? I want to do the thing because you told me I can't, and you didn't give me a reason that I can ride with. It still isn't plugging into my logical brain. There's a piece missing that you have. There's a door open that you haven't closed.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as there's one door open that you have not closed the loop on this thing, I want to see why. So we have this where they are just being told not to, and we're going to give you tickets, and we're going to impound your bikes, and we're going to do all these things. None of those things are going to stop them from doing it. And so people are going to say, well, what do we do then? I mean, so then I guess, you know, we just let people be lawless and we just let people whatever. And actually, I'm not of that opinion. You know, I actually, like, when it comes to like homelessness in other cities and stuff, and they go, well, we just need to let them be out there. No, but we need to give them a path. We have to give them a path to do the thing that they don't do in a way right now that is, you know, functioning with society in a cooperative way.
The reality is also super important to point out is that, you know, whenever I've had any success in my 30 plus years in law enforcement is when everybody was at the table.
Yeah.
When we got to hear from both sides, and then we were able to come up
equally, not
equally,
unfairly,
be able to hear
like
what is taking
weighted.
place. Exactly. What's taking place is you have some people complain, you made a rule. You didn't bring anybody else to the table.
Oh yeah.
You made a rule.
You ran to city council.
You made a rule,
which is usually made up of, you know, a bunch of older people in the community, not fairly representative of any community usually. It's usually very politically type minded people. It's not community, you know, city councils anymore are the intent is to be a representation of the community, but the reality is it's a stepping stone to somebody's political career for the most part.
You made a rule and put it, and then you act surprised when people
what a backlash is.
When don't want to participate in your rule, when in reality you didn't ask them to be a part of it.
Right.
If you want solutions,
you
got to bring everybody to the table, especially when we're
and
talking
you have
about
to bring everybody to
children.
the table in a way that you genuinely want to reach a solution, not I want to find out how I can make you buy into my way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because these kids see through that, and that's the problem with this movement right here. Other movements, you know, maybe you're more successful in that, but this one you're not going to be successful in the typical ways you're used to finding success. And all we have to do is look back at the skateboarding situation in the 70s, right? In you know, California was where it really hit the news, just like right now. Where is it hitting the news big time about the e-bikes and they're cracking down? California, but it's happening everywhere. And the
you know, I as an officer, that was one of the first things we did, responding to calls where people were skateboarding
in people's backyards.
And backyards,
they're breaking into their backyards,
or at the over at the Target, and in front, wearing down the sidewalk and or up on the benches or in the parks. Right. These are the things. Well, if you didn't have a space for them, when you implemented a rule without bringing everybody to the table.
Right. You said you can't ride skateboards, right? And the kids were like, right. Now, again, that community, I'm sure, because I see the same types of kiddos, who skate in this community. The difference between the e-bike community and the skate community, a lot of these communities that attract our neurodivergent kids also require a certain level of physical agility.
Yeah.
The reason this one's different is because it does not require any physical agility. If you have physical agility, you can do crazy stuff on the bike, but you don't have to have any. You can have any weight, you can be any coordination level, you can be any size, and you can ride an e-bike. You can be any age. You can have a 3-year-old out there on an e-bike, and you can have a 80-year-old on an e-bike. Skateboarding is hard on your body. You have to have a certain amount of coordination. I've never been able to skateboard a day in my life. I don't have that coordination. So, those communities get limited by physical agility, whereas this community has not been limited, just like gaming. Mm-hmm. Gaming, there's no limit of your physical agility, which is why it's so inclusive for all of them, right? So this is a place where they've found where they can be outside and they can do this.
Say that
now,
again.
They can be outside where you have to see them. Oh my God.
Well, you have to see them. You can watch them and actually help regulate it.
Right. So the problem is we've kind of moved towards, we've gotten more and more inward and less able to deal with each other publicly, right? Mm-hmm. We call the police for every little problem. We don't even go talk to our neighbors anymore about a problem we have in our neighborhood, with what they're doing. If their dog barks, I just heard my hairdresser, like, their dog was barking when they weren't there, and the police got called and they got a citation for it. And I'm like, and it was from their neighbor. And she's like, I just don't understand why they wouldn't come to the door and just be like, hey, and she was, because we would have totally not wanted to be. That's a whole nother episode. But what it connects to is that that's part of the problem, is that people don't know how to interact face to face with each other or each other's kids or anything anymore, and still keep a relationship intact. Yeah. They don't know how to diplomatically deal with people they don't know. They're afraid of everything because they don't know how to do anything like that anymore. No. So they assume that every interaction in face to face is going to be a threat.
Right. Which is like, an idea is to work through it, which is why you want kids out, which is the reason why we have kids interact in sports and things like that, because it forces them
it's so
to use
controlled,
that part of their brain, and it's very controlled to be able to do it. Here's a
we
way.
Don't give them any opportunities uncontrolled anymore to interact. So we went from Generation X, where we were feral, and the parents locked us out, and they were like, sink or swim, live or die, and we were like, all right, it's Lord of the Flies out here. We better figure it out. To, we don't let them do anything without hovering, without being right there, telling them everything to do, everything not to do. We don't give them any opportunity to have natural consequences. And we judge each other like crazy. Like, that's the whole parents do better. And my response is communities do better. Like, do better, communities. Stop acting like kids should be not seen and not heard. That's ridiculous. And I mean, God, we've been talking about helicopter parents for a minute. Mm-hmm. And being a helicopter parent was a negative thing. When it first came out, we were like, oh, aren't you cute? Helicopter parenting your child. Now it's somehow become a medal of honor. Yeah. The better helicoptering you do, the better parent you are. So basically what's going to happen is you're going to send your kid off to college, and the first opportunity they'll ever had to exist in the world without your direction is when the consequences are adult consequences. Yeah. Oh, okay.
And they've not had any practice on how to go through that.
No. I've never been yelled at by another adult. I've never, been scared for my life. You know? And so I don't even know that these risks exist. And boy, so of course I'm scared, and then I raise my kids and it gets worse.
Yeah.
Right? Because I had 2 experiences when I got out on my own, and then I wanted to immediately run back home. Right? Because holy shit, it's scary out here. Yeah. And really, it's not that scary. Somebody just basically probably told you that wasn't okay. They probably didn't even yell at you, but you never experienced it, so you don't even know what to do. My kid is learning, and this is what's ironic. This is what's really ironic. Our kids are the most socially impaired. Mm-hmm. And we're the ones going, no, our kids need to learn how to do this. Well, our kids need this experience. It's not the typically helping.
You want them to learn. You want them to get through it, so that let them learn the mistakes at 13 and not at 21 when it's an egregious mistake, when it's the kind of mistake that will result in them being losing their freedom or losing their life. Yeah. Let's let them work through it there.
And I mean, to those who say, well, they can lose their life at 13, and I'm not trying to let my kid die at 13. I get that. Yeah, I get it. Too. And letting them grow up from childhood to adulthood is a scary time. Listen, all you're doing is delaying the inevitable. So basically what you're saying is, I can handle if they die at 23, but not at 13.
Well,
I'm never going to handle it. I'm never going to be okay when my kid dies if they die.
And to people who say that, I would just ask them, if you tell me that you grew up in a bubble, then I'll listen.
Well, at this point they have, and they're doing it more.
Not the ones of my age. Not the ones of my age.
Well, yes.
And your age.
No, they didn't.
They didn't. And these are the people making the rules. You guys, we were out there.
Oh,
we were out
100%.
there. We were out there. And I say to them, if we survived, and why wouldn't you want your child to survive too?
Right. How do you think that you are able to problem solve the way you are right now? And I know the big thing is like, yeah, and I have all this trauma, and I have all this damage, and I have all this stuff, and I don't want my children to go through that. I get it. Me too. You too. Mm-hmm. We all have damage, but you're trading it for a different damage. Yeah. There's no fail-safe way to raise your child perfectly without damage.
Yeah.
It's just different damage. There's going to be damage one way or the other. It's the damage you know versus the damage you don't. We don't know what electronics are doing. We do know that predators are there. Yeah. And they have a huge ability to do horrible things with and to your children. But you're not worried about that because you don't have to look at it.
No, and there it is. But listen, this is a good segue. Let's take a moment here so we can go into episode 2. Yeah. So for all those, thanks for listening. To be continued. Please comment, like, and share. And if you want to reach out to us, connect and hook up with us on social media.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. To the next one.